My next patron question is from the Cinematic Bandicoot, who would like to know my thoughts on major changes happening in the animation industry right now. With DreamWorks Animation's The Wild Robot being the last in-house production, what are your thoughts on more animation studios outsourcing their pipelines to other countries? This is not a new concept, as Hanna-Barbera was a huge proponent of this during the 1980s, and American animation studios usually consist of character designers, storyboard artists, and background artists, while animation is produced overseas. But with the success of Illumination producing their films in Paris and Sony Pictures Animation producing their films in Canada, other animation studios are utilizing this practice to cut costs and dodge union regulations. Several labor disputes have made headlines within the industry, from films like Sausage Party, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Inside Out 2, not to mention AI already posing a threat to college artists and industry artists. How will this new practice affect the animation industry? How can future artists prepare for this? What should be done to protect artists from these drastic changes? There is a lot of uncertainty right now within the animation industry, especially for studios based in California, as a lot of animators and artists have seen their tasks assigned to studios overseas, although said artists have also made a point saying not to take it out on the animators at those outsourced studios, as they have their own local problems. We've even seen cases where these non-American animation studios are suddenly shut down without warning. It was just recently announced that ON Animation, which is based in Montreal, Quebec, and has worked on productions like The Little Prince and Ladybug and Cat Noir, will be shutting its doors. With DreamWorks' recent announcement they'll be outsourcing most of the animation services to other studios like Sony Imageworks, it appears that Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar are the only Californian animation studios who still make their productions in-house. Curiously, Pixar had previously opened a satellite studio in Canada, but it did not last very long. Disney Animation also used to have satellites in Paris and Orlando, with the latter even fully producing films like Mulan and Lilo and Stitch, but those were eventually closed too. Moana 2 received a lot of attention for starting out as a streaming series for Disney Plus before being turned into a movie. It was originally being animated at Disney Animation's satellite in Vancouver, which led people to wonder if the entire movie was animated there. However, when it was decided to make it a movie instead, all the work was then transferred to the studio in Burbank, and the animation was completed there. There was concern that maybe Disney would decide to animate all their future films in Canada, but all the upcoming movies are still planned to be animated in Burbank, with primarily Disney Plus series and specials being done in Vancouver. Although Disney seems to be cutting back on Disney Plus productions recently, including from Pixar and Disney Animation, so its future might be dicey. But otherwise, it seems like if you're an animator in California and you don't desire to move out of state, your only options do appear to be Pixar, Disney Animation, and remaining visual effects companies like Industrial Light and Magic. The thing is, even a lot of live-action Hollywood movies are being filmed primarily outside of California, in places like Georgia, New York, Canada, Australia, and England, with the number of locally shot films decreasing per year. Even those big iconic Hollywood sound stages are being used less. Even though Barbie did film most of the exterior scenes out in the real world in California, the scenes in Barbie World were filmed at Warner Brothers Studio in England, supposedly because Greta Gerwig's choice of production designer was Sarah Greenwood, who is based in the UK. But I'm sure Barbie also got tax incentives, which is another major reason why we're seeing this move to use more outsourced animation in other countries. There's an element of sadness knowing The Wild Robot would be the last film that was reportedly animated entirely in-house at DreamWorks, and it's all because of higher-ups wanting to cut costs. What's odd is that budgets had already been cut on the animated films, largely thanks to a software named Moonray that was developed for How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Moonray renders certain details quicker than before, allowing the films themselves to be completed faster, but without sacrificing the quality of the animation. This should have led production of the animation to be kept entirely in California, but it seems executives had other ideas. What's happening now is American animation work being spread around the world rather than being kept localized in one place, which has both its advantages and disadvantages. But it also means animators need to constantly move from one place to the next and not knowing where they'll then have to go once their current production ends and the studio lays off the crew. I really hope things improve in the animation industry, whether it's allowing for more local employment opportunities, studios not resorting to generative AI, not forcing them to crunch, and making sure they're paid what they're worth. I have such an enormous amount of respect for the artists and animators who make these films, and it's upsetting reading stories about low morale. Here's hoping for brighter skies and more jobs for every animator out there, because what you do is so inspiring and wonderful. Thanks for your question, Cinematic Bandicoot.